Predicting the future once is impressive. Doing it repeatedly, across multiple fields, and centuries in advance is extraordinary. It's 1482. We are in Milan, and the 30-year-old Leonardo da Vinci has just arrived here. This moment marks the beginning of his lifelong practice of keeping notebooks, and as his curiosity deepens, he will eventually fill thousands of pages with detailed passages and sketches, including many significant ideas and scientific discoveries. However, as Leonardo never publishes any of his findings, most of them will need to be rediscovered by others, often centuries later. Experts believe the 7,200 pages of his notes that exist today represent just 1/4 of what Leonardo actually wrote. Journalist and author Toby Lester described these notebooks as the most astonishing testament to the powers of human observation and imagination ever set down on paper. It's 1502. Leonardo is now 50 and has just created an astonishingly precise map of the town of Imola. What makes this map remarkable is not only its incredible accuracy, but also the revolutionary methods Leonardo used to achieve it, which in many ways anticipate the precision of modern satellite mapping. Unlike the distorted, semi-3D maps commonly used at the time, Leonardo employs a far more scientific approach. He measures angles and distances directly on the ground. Crucial to this process is an early version of an odometer he has devised to pace out distances with incredible precision. This allows him to record the exact measurements, producing a city layout with a level of practical detail never seen before in European maps. Using a magnetic compass, he marks the 8 major directional lines and even notes the distances to nearby towns along the map's edges. Leonardo's revolutionary methods for mapping are also his greatest contribution to military strategy, offering invaluable insight for planning fortifications and city defences. But for Leonardo, it represented a leap in visualizing and documenting the world. Continuing in his pursuit of understanding the Earth, Leonardo is particularly fascinated by geology and the study of fossils. His incredible powers of observation lead him to realize that erosion occurs when moving water carves away dirt from riverbanks, a conclusion he reaches by noticing that the rock layers on one side of a valley mirror the sequence on the other. It's an insight that puts him 200 years ahead of his time. Leonardo found fossils, including those of sea animals, at the top of mountains and in different sediment layers. This leads him to conclude that this could not be explained by a single flood, as is widely accepted at the time and described in the Bible. His correct conclusion is that there have been gigantic shifts and fluctuations in the Earth's crust that cause mountains to form. The ancient bottoms of the sea have become mountain ridges. He also discovered further evidence to confirm this, which are now known as trace fossils. These are formed not by the remains of the animals, but by the tracks that they made in the sediment when they were still alive. Leonardo notes that this proves that animals weren't washed up by a deluge. They were alive when they lived on what was then the ocean floor. This makes Leonardo a pioneer in ichnology, the study of fossil traces, a field that doesn't come into full existence for another 300 years. Leonardo was likely the first person to treat flight as a scientific discipline. Beginning around 1490, when Leonardo was 38, he spent over 2 decades studying the flight of birds and exploring the possibility of machines that could enable humans to fly. He produced over 500 drawings and 35,000 words across a dozen notebooks on the subject. Among his designs was an early concept for a parachute. Leonardo wrote, "If a man has a tent of linen, he'll be able to throw himself down from any great height without suffering any injury." Although his parachute was never tested in his lifetime, its design has proven viable in modern experiments. The detail in his observations on birds is remarkable, even by its own high standards. No scientist before had logically shown how birds stay in flight. He realized that the pressure the birds put on the air is met by an equal and opposite pressure that the air puts on the bird. See how the wings striking against the air sustain the heavy eagle. As much force is exerted by the object against the air as by the air against the object. 200 years later, Newton would state a refined version of this as his third law of motion. To every action, there is always an opposite and equal reaction. Through his studies, Leonardo was convinced that it was possible to build a winged mechanism that would allow humans to fly. A bird is an instrument working according to mathematical law, and it is in the capacity of man to reproduce such an instrument. He designed several contraptions for human flight, but none achieved this. However, his studies on the flight of birds and the principles of flight contributed to the body of knowledge that eventually made the monumental feat of human flight possible by the Wright brothers almost 400 years later. The sun does not move. Leonardo's curiosity extended to astronomy, where he made several observations that were revolutionary for his time. Unlike the prevailing belief that the Earth was the centre of the universe, he understood that it was actually the Earth orbiting the Sun. Although he didn't fully develop the idea of a sun-centred solar system, Leonardo's observations placed him well ahead of contemporary thinkers, anticipating a view that would be proposed by Copernicus more than 50 years later and only gradually gain acceptance in the century that followed. He realised the moon shines by reflecting sunlight, and Earth's shadow causes lunar eclipses. Leonardo also realised, centuries before Newton's groundbreaking work, that it was gravity that held the seas in place. A collection of Leonardo's writings, known as the Codex Leicester, focuses largely on water, something he considered to be the most fundamental force in both our planet and our bodies. In one section alone, he crammed 730 conclusions about water into just 8 pages. Bill Gates was so inspired by Da Vinci's curiosity and approach to learning that in 1994 he bought the Codex Leicester for $30.8 million, making it the most expensive manuscript ever sold. Leonardo's study of water was second only to his study of the human body, although, as with many of his interests, the two often overlapped. By observing how water pouring from a pipe creates eddies, he accurately envisioned similar vortices inside the human heart and how they could help close its valves. In 1500, Leonardo briefly stopped in Venice to offer military advice. While there, he sketched a design for a diving suit with breathable gear, including goggles and a mask, connected to cane tubes leading up to a floating diving belt on the surface. Though it would be centuries before such technology became a reality, the concept revealed his forward-thinking approach to underwater exploration. Leonardo's fascination with water wasn't limited to its constructive uses. He was equally intrigued by its destructive power. In his notebooks, he recorded observations of rivers and flood, describing how they reshape landscapes, uproot trees, and alter the very foundation of the earth. This fascination culminated in his final years with a series of intense sketches known as the Deluge drawings. These works capture the overwhelming power and terrifying beauty of nature in motion, depicting cataclysmic floods and swirling currents that appear to consume everything in their path. These deeply personal works reflect some of the darker themes of Leonardo's life, blending art and science, merging imagination with reality, and uniting them with the formidable force of nature. As Leonardo faced his final days, emotionally troubled and physically impaired by a stroke, the Deluge drawings became a profound outlet for his emotions and fears. He saw water and the energy within it as an element that could be both a creator and a destroyer. Leonardo's fascination with fire wasn't limited to its physical properties, extended to his work in military engineering, where he aimed to harness its power. Through his understanding of fire, Leonardo sought to master a force that, like water, had the power to reshape the world. Much of Leonardo's military engineering was carried out under the patronage of Ludovico Sforza, the Duke of Milan, who sought to strengthen his city's defences and expand its power. Leonardo experimented with gunpowder formulas and calculated cannonball dimensions to maximise their impact. He also sketched designs for multi-barreled cannons with cooling systems, technologies far ahead of their time. Among his military inventions was a self-supporting temporary bridge that could be quickly assembled without nails or ropes, enabling armies to cross rivers with speed and ease. Some of his most striking concepts were his armoured vehicles, resembling early tanks, fitted with cannons and powered by humans. He envisioned giant crossbows capable of launching massive projectiles and scythed chariots designed to slice through enemies. While many of these ideas were too advanced for the technology of his time, they reveal a visionary understanding of warfare centuries ahead of modern military engineering. Leonardo's contributions to military engineering weren't limited to offensive weapons. He also devised defensive systems, including plans for fortified walls with angled bastions to deflect cannon fire, an innovation that would later influence fortress architecture. Leonardo da Vinci's profound belief in the interconnectedness of all things once offered a powerful framework for understanding the world. Yet today, in an age of specialization and reductionist thinking, this holistic vision is too often forgotten. To him, the human body was a microcosm of the earth, and although he embraced the idea of the microcosm-macrocosm, he approached it critically. By the time he completed the Codex Leicester, he recognized that despite clear patterns in nature, there is also spectacular complexity and variety. As he turned his attention skyward, Leonardo's exploration of astronomy hinted at an even greater macrocosm, one where Earth itself is part of a vast dynamic system. Though he didn't fully grasp the enormity of the universe as we understand it today, his observations of the stars and planetary motion reveal an early insight that Earth might be a microcosm within a far greater cosmic order. In the next video, the lost history of Leonardo da Vinci's Vitruvian Man will explore the incredible story behind this iconic image and how it can help shape our understanding of humanity's place in the universe. Consistently throughout history, those aspiring to greatness have studied the lives and achievements of other successful individuals.